CPS, in person of Benjamin, the first relations officer in Abuja, said that the police didn't use any form of live bullets during the FreeNnamdiKanu now protest that was held 2 days ago. That is on the 20th of October. So he had an explanation to all the things that happened that day, and saying that they actually applied the minimum form of resistance, which was the tear gas. And the question is, in a case where it is a peaceful protest, why is there tear gas? Why were there sounds of explosion that sounded exactly like bullets, live bullets, and you say there was no use of bullets? But I want you to listen to everything he has to say on the interview which was held yesterday. Okay, before we continue, I want you to note that we have two topics which we are going to be discussing in this video. So please do well to watch through to the end, because we'll also be talking on the interview which Sowore also had, yes, and where he stated the only crime of Nnamdi Kanu. And also we'll be talking about Dr. Maxwell Opara, who is a lawyer and a public affairs analyst, who is a big fan and supporter of Nnamdi Kanu, where he was asked why he indulged himself in the protest, being a lawyer of Nnamdi Kanu. So I also want you to sit back to listen to everything. So first of all, we'll be starting with that of the CPS Abuja.
Thank you very much. The brief was there is a court order saying protesters are not to go to certain areas, clearly spelled out in the court order and clearly spelled out in the statement we issued on Saturday. And so for anybody trying to go into these areas, they will be stopped with minimal force. They will be arrested if they actually do go into these areas, and they will be investigated and prosecuted. That was spelled out clearly in our statement. That was the brief. And today, some people indeed marched into these areas, and they were arrested. And we also used minimal force commensurate with the resistance we got. And that was the use of tear gas to disperse the crowd. It was. Now, the issue of live bullets, there was absolutely no use of live bullets. It's very common for people to think that the popping sound, the explosion-like sound they hear when tear gas is fired, is that of live bullets. But I can tell you on good authority that live bullet was not used today.
Okay, great. So can you confirm, you've just told us that there were arrests made, like we've heard. Can you confirm to us the numbers of people that were arrested and what next?
So initially in the morning, we had 8 people, including Nnamdi Kanu's brother, Emmanuel Kanu, and Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer, Dr. Barrister Aloy, and 6 others, making 8. But much later, 5 people were added to it, 5 other people were arrested, making a total of 13. So we have 13 people in our custody. Statements have been taken, investigation is being wrapped up as I speak, and first thing tomorrow morning they are going to be prosecuted. We can assure you that they will spend up to 24 hours in our custody. And
these arrests were done where? In one sport or different sports? You can highlight that for us.
Yes.
Because we also thought journalists were among those you arrested today, international journalists.
This morning one international journalist was brought to the state, the FCT command headquarters in Abuja, because the arresting officers mistook him for a protester, but he identified himself immediately and he was released. I can confirm that he was released immediately. He identified himself. So I'm answering your question. Yes, some people were arrested around Transcorp after they made their way into Shosharewe, while others were arrested around Ministry of Finance, also within the restricted area.
Tear gassing, was it necessary? When you say that's the minimal force you could use, was that absolutely necessary?
Standard operation procedures. It's not just Nigeria. World over, police forces have tear gas, and if we give that warning to protesters not to go beyond certain areas, especially in this case as provided for by court order, and they decide to be confrontational, trust me, tear gas is way better, far better than using live bullets. Thankfully, we did not use any live bullets. So yes, if you ask me that if this situation presented itself tomorrow, would we use tear gas? Absolutely we would, because that's the minimal force we could use in this instance.
A good place to leave it. Thank you so much for telling us the side of your story today. The spokesperson of the Nigerian Police Force, Benjamin Hundeyin, for being here.
Thank you very much.
So the CPS is claiming that what they did is right, and they will reinforce it if a situation comes up like this. And he stated that about 11 in total are under their custody and will be persecuted. All right, let's move on to Sowore. He said something that the only crime Nnamdi Kanu committed is something. Let's hear from him. Over to
Nnamdi Kanu is not being held for committing terrorism. No, it's being held because he is an Igbo man who wants Nigeria to either allow justice to the Igbo man or let the Igbo man be. That is the crime Nnamdi Kanu committed. It is a crime committed with a microphone, not an AK-47.
Right. So more than 7 years in detention, almost a decade in fact, and he's still not been found guilty of any crime. And your contention is that in line with the Nigerian constitution, which says that a man is innocent until proven guilty and which calls for the speedy dispensation of justice, it's time to set this captive free. Is that a fair assessment and the reason you led today's protest?
Yes, it is because also the Court of Appeal in 2022 did take a decision, a decisive decision, that having been extraordinarily rendition from Kenya, kidnapped is the other word for it, there are no charges that can hold in that court, and he was asked to be released. That judgment ought to have taken effect immediately was given, but the Nigerian government did not honor that judgment. They claimed they were going on appeal. An appeal does not constitute a stay when personal liberty is involved. He's been discharged. There's nothing that could have held him except to get a brand new detention order, which they didn't, because they were not interested in any trial. They were interested in subduing and subjugating Nnamdi Kanu for committing a crime against the real estate called Nigeria, which is to say, look, we may want to think about our own country, considering that this country has no respect for our dignity, our culture, and our safety. So I have laid this out before, and I have also looked at the case notes. I worked with the lawyers. I am in a position to tell you when I see a useless case, because I get charged severally for this kind of frivolous cases. Nnamdi Kanu is not being held for committing terrorism. No, he's being held because he is an Igbo man who wants Nigeria to either allow justice to the Igbo man or let the Igbo man be. That is the crime Nnamdi Kanu committed. It is a crime committed with a microphone, not an AK-47.
Right. Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a minute, but Mazi Dixon, I wonder what your reaction, because you kind of lost your voice.
Yes,
there.
I did.
I wonder what your reaction is to the fact that the march that you attended was tumbled, let me put it that way, by the police. They fired tear gas to disperse the protesters, and you apparently fell victim to that show of force and to that tear gas. And
so sincerely, today again, being that it was peaceful, because it was well declared by the convener of this very protest that it is a peaceful protest, and it was peaceful. But go around Abuja, if this was how the Nigerian police force was tackling insecurity in our country, we won't be here. We won't be discussing insecurity in Nigeria. Nobody could move. We just assembled, and before you knew it, they started, not just tear gas, live bullets were released. Not just at one location, even when we now said, okay, move. We just assembled, and before you knew it, they started, not just tear gas, live bullets were released. Not just at one location, even when we now said, okay, since you have stopped us from convening around this so-called big men area, we're moving to the people. We moved from there to Bega, roundabout, and then from there we moved to, they came there and moved us to Otako. They still came that way, tear gassed and all of that, and then moved also to Apo and all that. You now wonder, what is it that the Nigerian government really wants from the Nigerian people?
Right.
For us to be violent? Is it because we decided to be peaceful? Right. So indeed, it's unfortunate that this is the country that we find ourselves, but it cannot continue this way.
Well, Mr. Sowore, let me come back to you. The protests obviously gained a lot of traction on social media. You're very influential on social media and beyond, and it probably alarmed the government, especially after the US Embassy cautioned its citizens to stay away from the protest locations in Abuja. Were you surprised that your call for a protest gained as many followers as quickly as it did?
But Nigeria, you can't even define what is wrong with Nigeria. It's like a nation that is at war, with itself and against itself. Yeah. And when you see this happen, what we have experienced with Nnamdi Kanu, with terrorists walking around, the federal government even went and attended the naming ceremony of one of the bandits after they met in Katsina, you would ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I in a country like this? And that is probably why most people call Nnamdi Kanu a prophet, that he saw into the future, that this country is not the kind of country you want to have your children in. And there's nothing wrong if you want your own country. This international law recognizes that. If I declare Sowore Republic tomorrow, what are you going to do to me? Arrest me and detain me perpetually? No, it is not done. So what we're saying here, when you see injustice, you know it, and you don't need to be told that the way and manner injustices are handled in Nigeria have colorations. Sometimes it may not be ethnic, but it might be religious, it might be political. I was around throughout Abiola's persecution. Abiola did not declare more than saying, I'm president because I won an election. He died in detention. They kept saying, We were fighting it. They said, oh, Abiola is in detention. Abiola is being handled by the courts. It's being handled by the court. He wasn't being tried. The Supreme Court had gone on break. So the same thing that I'm alarmed, and I'm saying this to anybody who's watching. I'm alarmed. I'm shocked that we are in a country where there's anybody who feels what is being done to Nnamdi Kanu is okay. You know, and I say this particularly of my Yoruba brothers who make these comments. Some of them even have the audacity to send me messages personally. Oh, you know, they'll be sending you all these videos, you know, because your brother is in power. But I was the only person when Sunday Igboho's house was raided and all his people were, including his cat, was killed. I was the only person in this Abuja who went to the Federal High Court who pushed the DSS out of the front of the courtroom, and that was the day his people were granted bail. Nobody talked about. Yeah. There are Yoruba activists who went and invaded a radio station in Ibadan. Have you heard about them anymore? Even Sunday Igboho, my brother, is back. He's actually, you know, he's moving around freely. Nnamdi Kanu has never carried a weapon before. Most of these guys have done things like that. Why are we treating the Igbo man differently? And I'm not saying that to whip up something, because I'm ashamed, of course, of these Southeastern leaders. Because when I was on your show last time, remember, I was saying that Nnamdi Kanu is being kept in detention deliberately by Southeastern politicians. They showed themselves in the last few days. The deputy speaker was asking people not to join peaceful protests. You know, all the governors kept quiet about it. The Ohanese Indigo person in our heads is, you know, is a wicked version of Ohanese Indigo. He's saying that nobody should go out to fight for the freedom of a person who is innocent of any crime. And we are here saying it is normal. It is normal. Even the policemen who were shooting at us today were fighting for them a month ago to get their pension and gratuity. They were the ones shooting at us. They saw me today, came close to me, and they were shooting directly at me. 4 times today. The policemen I fought for. There's something wrong with this country.
Mr. Sowore, I wonder how much you were influenced by protests in other parts of the world. I mean, we've had Madagascar recently, we've had Nepal. I mean, these are the kind of things that maybe worry the government. Protests involving people known as Gen Z, and I mean, we saw a whole bunch of them coming here with you. One assumes, of course, as you have yourself repeatedly pointed out, that your approach is different. Because in Nepal, for instance, they burned down everything. But I understand that obviously you want your protests to be peaceful and pacific.
Yes, because I often stated that justice for all, for me, is not specific enough. You know, it's a boogie. And we have to specifically ask for things that would advance the progress of Nigerians or the people who live within the boundaries of a country called Nigeria. I do not believe in violence. That I've stated, but I've been protesting since I was 21 years old. And
I'll reserve my comments because I believe this interview is explicitly explanatory, and if you're following through to this point, I believe you understand what is going on. It's really unfair and pure injustice that a man has been withheld for 7 years, and according to Sowore, he gives a reason logical enough to show that he is being that his only crime was him opening his mouth to speak. That is unfair. All right, before we continue, please do well to like this video and let's know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll be moving on to Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer. All right, one of his lawyers, which was also interviewed, and a question was thrown at him. I want you to listen to the things he said because he made a lot of points and sense. All right,
as a lawyer yourself, does it not raise contradiction that while there's an active case in court, you then descend to the streets to ask for your client to be released? Help us make sense of that. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, I have been, as a researcher, I've been going through the laws to see the law that say that a lawyer cannot protest or participate in protest against injustice or when the right of his client is being violated. I'm here to see the law. Assuming that there is a law, that law cannot be applied as a valid law because the Constitution said any law that contravenes any provisions of the Constitution, that particular law should be in abeyance. Now, having said that, we are not protesting asking court to give us judgment. Get it right. We never protested against any issue that has to do with court.
The hashtag is FreeNnamdiKanu. So what are you protesting for?
I'm coming.
Okay.
So we are now asking that FreeNnamdiKanu now because your actions, we are not talking about the executive, towards discriminating against him. What do we mean? Now let me start from the judicial angle. Courts, 5 courts, 2 foreign courts and 3 local courts has given judgment in favor of Nnamdi Kanu against federal government. 1 even awarded 1 billion naira in his favor against federal government. The other one awarded 500 million naira in his favor against federal government. Court of Appeal, the 3-man panel, the discharge Nnamdi Kanu, and federal government refused to comply with that law until after close to 2 weeks. They now remember that they can file stay of execution. Then they file it in court and went to Supreme Court. Now, that one is on that. Now, the president now, instead of looking at all these issues, rather what the president did is this. He now directed the police and the army to go to the north, to go and negotiate and discuss with bandits. And all of us saw it with our naked eyes. Those who are committing the act. Secondly, the president now come back and see all those people. Court said, you are a murderer, you should die by hanging. You are a drug addict, you should serve sentence. President came back and pardoned all of them. And said that when you talk about that of Nnamdi Kanu, they said that one is in court. Now, Mariam Sanda, her own matter is still pending at the Supreme Court. The president did not even ask the lady, go and withdraw your appeal at the Supreme Court before I consider you, simply because she's from the north.
All right.
Now, when you see all these things, you see that this is a discrimination against Nnamdi Kanu and the Igbos, which is against Section 42 of the Constitution, which say that you don't discriminate against anybody because of his religion, sex, tribe, or whatever.
Bias. Okay, Dr. The executive is biased.
Yes.
But this case is in court.
I'm not saying that. Is it the only case that is in court?
Is this a cry for help? Let me ask you.
Yes.
Is this a cry for help because you feel that you will not get justice in the courts? That's why you decided to go to the streets?
No. We are saying that the president is number one person. He has the power under the Constitution to direct his Attorney General to discontinue any charge. He has the power to grant presidential pardon. He has the power to resolve, and he has been doing it. We have seen it.
Presidential pardons are given to convicted individuals. He's still undergoing trial.
Can you listen so that you understand where I'm
so
going?
that we don't confuse our public as well.
Yes.
I need to speak in facts.
Yes.
Yes.
We are saying that there is a judgment against the government in favor of Nnamdi Kanu. Have you complied with that? What stops you from complying with that particular judgment?
Was it not appealed to a higher court?
No. Those ones are not appealed. Including Kenya. Kenya in their judgment there is no name they did not call Nigerian government in kidnapping Nnamdi Kanu. Now what we are talking about is that when you are exercising your power as a president, you should exercise it in a situation whereby people will not see that you are dividing the country. You are discriminating against a particular tribe. It is wrong, and people need to protest against that.
So this is about ethnicity according to you?
Of course.
All right, let's without prejudice to the court, help us understand this because you're a lawyer. Currently, prosecution has closed its case, as I understand it.
Yes.
There was a no case submission filed.
Yes.
It was overruled.
Yes.
The defendant, you're called to come and open your trial.
On the 23rd, yes.
Which is 2 days away from now.
We are good to go.
But you're on the streets.
Protesting.
Yes.
Who said that I cannot protest? I want to may I be guided? Who said that I cannot protest? Do you know the meaning of protest? That I cannot complain.
I'm not saying you cannot protest. I'm saying
protest means complain. Protest means complain. That's the meaning of protest.
And can I ask you?
It means expressing what you have in mind, so that the president can right the wrong.
So this is about the president. You're
yes,
calling on the president.
On the president, not on the judiciary.
Not the judiciary.
Not on the judiciary.
Okay, so my final question to you, before I let you go, do you have faith in the Nigerian judiciary to prosecute this case?
Well, I can say yes and no. Why should I say yes?
Yeah.
Why I say yes is that because I've seen where judges, Nigerian judiciary delivered judgment where all of us clap.
Okay.
I can also say no, where we have seen a judgment that if such a thing happened, just like that of Nnamdi Kanu, Court of Appeal gave judgment. Forthwith, federal government refused. After close to 2 weeks, the same government have the audacity to meet the same Court of Appeal, asking them to stay execution. The first in history. Case Nnamdi, the first in history. You now stay execution. Staying what? And it was granted before the now goes to Court of Appeal. So in that particular instance, if you should ask me, judiciary did not behave well. But we have seen where judiciary look at the government, they say this one is wrong, and they give judgment against them. That's why I said yes and no.
Okay, great. As a Nigerian, you have the fundamental right to protest on any matter. Thank you so much for coming on the news tonight. We do appreciate your time.
I love the way the lawyer was so bold and he stated facts. He stated things the way it should be and for every ears to hear. All right, so moving on, I want you to know this final update on what's happening based on those that have been detained. Like we said earlier on, about 11 persons have been detained. Amongst them is Nnamdi Kanu's younger brother and the lead lawyer. I want you to hear the latest update from the horse's mouth. All right, listen.
What we're trying to say is that we got here this morning, and lo and behold, the police has rushed here without letting his lawyers be aware of their clients were about. And the judge, upon discovering that there was no lawyer around, has sent them to Abuja. That was the goal of the illegal IG, to send this guy away. That's the goal of Tinubu, to make sure that there are no lawyers to defend him when he returns to court, to open his defense. That is it. That is the tactic you are saying now. And you see that they're also sponsoring propaganda, or that it was Sowore that got them arrested. Yeah. It is part of the propaganda, so that they will use that to divide us. Yes. And we are used to that. I am here to get Nnamdi Kanu released.
Yes.
And nobody who is being held, including Igbos that were tagged IPOB members, who are all languishing in separate detention, in one barrack, in Tiger Base, we will get everybody out.
Yes.
It's either we are free in this country, or we ensure that we fight for our independence again.
Exactly. Yes.
That is
freedom or nothing.
That is why I have no apologies. When you hear me say that Nigeria needs a revolution, this is what I mean.
Yes, we need revolution.
Without a revolution, everybody will take you for granted. Even a chicken can take you for granted. Bees, flies, we take you for granted. Rats, we take you for granted. But in this case, we are prepared for whatever it will take. That's why they never thought I could come out yesterday. And they said, after the tear gas, they thought it was over. Yes. We protested in this Abuja in 6 places. Yes. We were imagined in different parts of the city. And with their help, they were able to help us shut down the city.
Exactly.
Even the judge who gave an order that we cannot go to Aso Road could not resume to work yesterday. We hear his own case. So, but just be prepared. Those of you who were afraid the last time, or who were convinced not to come out, know that nothing can happen to you if we all unite and mass. Exactly. If the mass decide today that we want Nnamdi Kanu release, they will release him.
When people say yes, nobody can say no.
Revolution! My people, this will be all for now. Do well to keep spreading the news and sharing, and also let us know your thoughts in comments. We'll see you in our next upload shortly.